Hello, everyone. Warm greetings and welcome to today's webinar organized by the WinS Network or the Washington Schools Network, where we focus on the Enabling Environment Matrix or the EE Matrix in preparation for the upcoming WinS ILE. So before we begin, we are as you can see, have already started the recording of this session, and we will make it available via the WinS Network website. So by staying on the webinar, we understand that you are granting your consent for the recording and the sharing. I am Marge Lim of the WinS Network Secretariat and have the pleasure of opening the session for today. And we'd also love to know who are joining us. So please let us know your name, your organization, and where you are joining us from in the chat. Let me just also quickly type that in the chat. Sorry, I can only do English. So let me try to translate where I can. So again, please introduce yourselves in the chat. We'd love to know who are joining us. And while you are introducing yourself, allow me to introduce the WinS Network, or the Washington Schools Network, which is a global interagency network that aims to bring together various organizations with a common goal of improving WASH services in schools and foster alignment and facilitate regular exchange of experiences and best practices among them. And to date, there are almost 400 members who are all working towards the vision of all schools having access to basic drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene services as defined in the Sustainable Development Goals. And the WinS Network's initiatives support various working streams on Washington schools, including advocacy, policy, and system strengthening, monitoring and reporting, knowledge management,
Hello,
capacity development, and learning and exchange. Sorry, yes, can you hear me? Do you have any questions?
hello. What about the translator?
Yeah, no, for this session, we won't have, unfortunately, we wouldn't have live translation, simultaneous translation. So what we're trying to do is, while the presenter is speaking in English, the slides will be in French. On the other hand, if the audio is in French, then the slides will be in English. So yes, please bear with us. That's what you're able to manage within the limited time. But for the question and answer, definitely we will have a translation immediately after. So we will allot time for that. So please feel free to type in your questions or ask your questions in the language you're comfortable with.
Oh, she must be like my mom and take early pension. My mom left
Alright,
at
so
61
may
too.
I request you to please mute yourselves first? Okay, all right. Now, going back, so the network is steered by different core group members whose logos, whose names you see on the screen. And you may check out the website www.winsnetwork.org for more information. So again, anytime during the session, we highly encourage active engagement through the chat. So please type in your questions anytime. And at this point, please allow me to introduce the moderator of today's session, Belinda Abraham. Belinda is a seasoned international development specialist with over 25 years of experience in the WASH and education sectors in Sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. She is currently based in Berlin, working with the Viva Conagua and also supporting the WinS Network Secretariat. So without further delay, over to you, Belinda. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marge, and thank you for a nice introduction, but as well to sort of set the pace for this coming hour. And I want to welcome everybody here from the four corners of the world, and particularly Africa, from Sub-Saharan Africa, and also those joining us also from Asia. So all welcome, and Europe, and I see a lot of European colleagues who are all planning for the International Learning Exchange. So as many of you know, and have had an opportunity to participate, the International Learning Exchange is really a gathering of governments and supporting stakeholders, all working towards improving the WASH in schools, access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene in schools to reach SDGs 6, but also SDG 4. And I do want to put a little bit of a disclaimer as we move forward that this is a preparation email. This is a preparation webinar, and many of you received an email regarding either statements of interest and so forth. We just want to thank you for attending it, and we do really value your active participation and appreciate your interest in the ILE. And then whilst the preparation for the ILE, we see it as very much as essential, we do want to clarify that still the actual attendees are still being calculated. So this is not done at this level. It's actually done more at country level and also looking at what are the availability constraints. So by virtue of being invited to this webinar does not automatically assume that you or your delegation is in the ILE. And I say this only, most of you who have been invited to the ILE have received already invitation letters, but there's still, I believe, some who have not received letters or there's still decisions to be made. So I just want to explain that as a slight disclaimer. If you have any other additional questions, feel free to put them in the chat box and we will get to those questions. But glad to have everybody here. And I do want to say on a personal level, I was very much involved in supporting the ILEs in the past, but I didn't actually join an ILE when I was in Asia. So it is very important, this process, this webinar that we are going through, it is a very important process to prepare for the ILE. So maybe with that, I would just stop briefly to allow translation or clarification of what I've said, or I think maybe it's okay. C'était bien reçu? Assuming. Okay, I will proceed forward then. Today's agenda is we've done the welcoming introductions. We will have an overview briefly of the four recommendations from the outcome document. We're very pleased to have Mr. Abdel Youssef from the Ministry of Education in Chad to share this presentation. Followed by that, we'll have a pre-recorded presentation also by Brooke Yamakoshi from UNICEF East Asia and Pacific region. She will share an overview of how the EE matrix works. Then we will have a presentation by the Gambia, Mr. Lamin Fadara, who will take us through kind of what is the situation in the Gambia, but also how they have used this matrix. We'll have a question and answer session following that. And then Natalie will give us a little bit of prep towards the International Learning Exchange, which is taking place in Zanzibar, Tanzania, and particularly to support country delegations on the preparations further. And then we will have further Q&As at that point as well. So with that then, we can begin. So just as again mentioned, I want to again thank Mr. Abdel Youssef for the presentation representing Chad. His presentation will be in, the slides will be in English, but the text is the text is in English, but he will be speaking in French for the presentation. His presentation will talk a little bit about the context of the WinS, and he will also talk about each of the result areas. There were 4 result areas from the previous outcome document from the ILE that was held in Côte d'Ivoire, and he will speak to them against what has been the results in Chad, and then also what is the next steps forward. So with that, hopefully this will work.
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Nous allons vous présenter succinctement les résultats de l'eau, l'assainissement et l'hygiène en milieu scolaire au Tchad. Et c'est dans des contextes humanitaires particuliers marqués par l'accueil des réfugiés à l'est du pays. Il faut rappeler que la couverture en eau et assainissement demeure toujours faible, malgré les efforts consentis du gouvernement et ses partenaires techniques et financiers. En effet, 68% d'écoles n'ont pas accès à un service d'eau potable. 67% d'entre elles aussi ne disposent pas de toilettes adéquates et 72% des enfants pratiquent la défécation à l'air libre. Et c'est des données issues de l'année statistique 2021-2022 du ministère de l'Éducation nationale. Il faut aussi rappeler qu'il y a eu une enquête en 2018 sur la GHM dans les 3 provinces par Hydro-Conseil. Et le résultat de cette étude montre que 8 filles sur 10 disent que leur installation sanitaire ne permettent pas de gérer leurs règles aisément et en toute dignité.
I just wanted to stop there just to translate quickly one point he says here, which is really important, is it's not translated. He says that first he's sharing the coverage of WASH, but he says that there was a study that was done in Chad in 3 provinces, and they found that 8 out of 10 children were not able to regularly go to school because of the lack of menstrual hygiene. And management. And so this is quite telling that 80% of girls in 3 provinces in Chad.
Dans la mise en œuvre des activités de l'eau, l'assainissement et l'hygiène dans les écoles, les principaux ministères et partenaires impliqués au niveau national sont le ministère de l'Éducation nationale et de la promotion civique, le ministère de l'eau et de l'assainissement, le ministère de la santé publique, le ministère des finances et du budget, et il y a aussi les PTF, notamment l'UNICEF, le PAM, l'OMS, mais aussi les ONG nationales de mise en œuvre. Toutefois, le lutte est assuré par le ministère de l'Éducation nationale et de la promotion civique à travers la Direction nationale de l'alimentation, de la nutrition, de la santé scolaire et des actions en urgence et la Direction de l'analyse, de la prospective et de la carte scolaire. Les autres ministères, notamment celui de l'eau et de l'assainissement et celui de la santé, viennent en appui à travers l'organe multisectoriel qui est l'Alliance nationale pour les écoles saines. En ce qui concerne un mécanisme de coordination, il faut rappeler que le Tchad dispose depuis 2018 au sein du ministère de l'Éducation nationale un organe multisectoriel dénommé Alliance nationale pour les écoles saines. Il fut créé en 2018 et révisé en 2023. Il permet au ministère de l'Éducation nationale et de la promotion civique de mobiliser les acteurs autour d'une vision conjointe et cohérente avec la politique nationale de l'alimentation, de la nutrition et de la santé scolaire et les objectifs de développement durable. Il fait la promotion du respect de la stratégie eau et assainissement et hygiène dans les écoles et les normes standards nationaux, leur mise en œuvre par les responsables des acteurs de l'éducation et les communautés. Et il y a aussi un engagement politique, c'est-à-dire que l'eau, l'assainissement et l'hygiène en milieu scolaire est inscrit dans un agenda politique sur une base de données factuelles. L'Alliance a joué un rôle déterminant dans l'élaboration de la stratégie nationale et HMS et les outils WASH dans les écoles en 2018.
Okay, I think an important point that he highlights here is first he, in the previous slide, shared the different actors, but more important was this alliance that has been created for Washington schools, and that the policy, and they've been really a strong group to really play a key role to push this policy, which the policy was done in 2018 but updated in 2023. So it has a political basis of which they work, and that's key.
Pour la politique nationale, WinS et les directives du Tchad dans l'objectif d'atteindre les ODD 4 et 6 concernant les H dans les écoles, a élaboré et met en œuvre une stratégie nationale EH en milieu scolaire 2018-2030. Cette stratégie sert de repère et cadrage pour toutes les actions et programmes entrant dans le cadre de l'EH dans les écoles. Les normes et standards ont été élaborés et validés par le Tchad et visent à assurer que les résultats EHMS atteints en 2023 soient standardisés, harmonisés et respectant les normes requises pour l'atteinte des ODD. Donc, il compte fournir des directives nationales de base à respecter dans le cadre des interventions EHMS telles que les normes de changement de comportement et les standards techniques sur les infrastructures cadre les interventions EHMS en complément de la stratégie nationale et facilite l'harmonisation des actions des acteurs EHMS, crée un environnement favorable pour le développement de l'HMS. Parlant de la surveillance nationale, WinS, le ministère de l'Éducation nationale et de la promotion civique, dispose d'un mécanisme intégré de gestion de l'éducation pour le suivi des indicateurs éducationnels dénommé SIGE. Donc, il est géré au sein de la direction de l'analyse et de la prospective et de la carte scolaire. Malheureusement, ce système de gestion n'intègre pas toutes les variables WinS, notamment les données sur l'hygiène et la gestion de l'hygiène menstruelle.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Sorry, the translation here is not great, but so basically he's explained that. So we see very much it's with the policy, it's very much integrated into the Ministry of Education. But one of the challenges as well is EMIS does have some indicators. EMIS is key to monitoring education indicators. Some of the WINS indicators, particularly the software ones, are not integrated. So things around menstrual hygiene are not. However, the hardware indicators are in WINS, and I think this many can relate to this as well.
Les défis, nous avons quelques défis qui sont retenus, notamment l'absence de lignes budgétaires dans le budget du même PC dédié à l'eau, l'assainissement et l'hygiène en milieu scolaire, la non prise en compte des thématiques de l'eau, l'assainissement et l'hygiène, la GHM, l'équité, au niveau de formation, au niveau des systèmes de formation, notamment l'école normale d'instituteurs et le curricula, l'absence de données sur l'hygiène et la gestion de l'hygiène menstruelle dans le SIG.
So those are the challenges, and I apologize that when you see EAHMS, that should be WASH, and so basically absence of budget lines, failure to consider WASH in schools in the teacher training curricula, and also, as he mentioned earlier, the lack of software part of WASH in the EMIS.
Les perspectives, nous avons quelques perspectives à atteindre, notamment le démarrage de l'approche pas à pas prônée par la stratégie nationale eau et assainissement hygiène en milieu scolaire dans les 23 provinces du Tchad, le plaidoyer auprès des partenaires pour un programme WASH dans les écoles et leur engagement, et la continuité de formation des enseignants sur les outils WASH, incluant la GHM, et aussi la révision de la stratégie plus tard et les normes en intégrant la résilience climatique et aussi les plaidoyers pour un budget HMS dans le budget de l'éducation et un plaidoyer pour l'intégration des thématiques HMS dans le curriculum.
Yeah, so the focus for them moving on in Chad, and I think they will explain a little bit, Noah is here as well, their flag approach, which is like a 3-star approach, how they've been able to launch this step-by-step approach in 23 provinces, where receiving the orange flag is probably equivalent to a 3-star. They want to continue advocating for partners, ensuring that WASH is integrated into the curriculum, and then also, of course, advocating for budgets.
Après la participation du Tchad à la première ULA organisée en octobre en Côte d'Ivoire, quelques réalisations significatives sont constatées, notamment la révision de l'organe de coordination de l'Alliance nationale pour les écoles saines en 2023, la prise en compte de la résilience face au changement climatique dans les planifications WIS, c'est-à-dire que dans toutes les activités de planification, maintenant, nous sommes en train d'intégrer la question du changement climatique. Et aussi, récemment, le ministère de l'eau et de l'assainissement, avec l'appui technique et financier de l'UNICEF, ont validé une étude anthropologique sur la défécation à l'air libre. Et il y a aussi la TPE qui est prise en compte dans cette étude anthropologique. La prise en compte de WINS dans la préparation du programme et des requêtes de financement de la République du Tchad à l'attention du secrétariat GP à travers le pacte de partenariat. C'est-à-dire que le ministère, récemment en octobre, a élaboré un pacte de partenariat portant principalement sur l'enseignement primaire. Donc, à ce niveau, ce pacte vise à améliorer l'accès équitable à une éducation de qualité et le résultat des apprentissages, en particulier pour les filles et les vulnérables, dont les enfants réfugiés et déplacés internes, à travers le perfectionnement conséquent de la présentation et de la qualité des enseignants. Il s'inscrit ainsi dans le cheminement vers l'objectif de développement 4 et dans les priorités du plan intérimaire de l'éducation au Tchad, PIET 2.
Yeah, so perhaps maybe in the questions you can elaborate a little bit more. But since the ILE in Cote d'Ivoire that took place in last year, they've been able to establish this National Alliance for Healthy Schools in 2023, which is a coordinating body. I think the main point around really integrating climate resilience and climate change into the Washington schools planning has been key. Their consideration, LAD, I apologize, should have been translated to ODF. So they have actually had a study that looks at ODF in schools, which was commissioned by the Ministry of Water. And this is being not only validated, but also taken into consideration in the planning and the programming for Washington schools. But I think very much here key is that in the GPE, the Global Program for Education, they have now, there's a much more focus on vulnerable children, children of refugees, children, girls, and therefore looking at how they can improve the quality and the quality of education. And as a result, the considerations for WASH fit into that, and therefore have also funding considerations. But I will allow the Chad team to maybe elaborate on the plaidoyer, the advocacy that really they were able to do to kind of get that cushioned or integrated into that partnership pack, and what does that mean for the sector?
Merci, je vous remercie beaucoup et shukran kathir.
Thank you very much. So I will stop here and maybe invite the Chad team to maybe, if you want to highlight anything in the presentation that you would like to share more with, particularly going over those 4 outcome areas. And if there's any questions, you're also welcome to put them in the chat box now. So je voudrais bienvenue à Noah et Abdel.
Oui.
Oui, merci. Peut-être vous pouvez un peu elaborate a little bit. Il y a des plaidoyers. Qu'est-ce que vous avez présenté ici? And anything else you want to add?
Please.
En français, c'est d'accord.
Si je peux peut-être donner un peu de traduction, en fait, ce qu'on souhaiterait, c'est que vous essayez d'élaborer un petit peu plus sur les 4 éléments de l'environnement favorable que vous avez présenté et s'il y avait des choses en plus que vous aimeriez ajouter dans la présentation.
Thank you, merci.
Ah, d'accord.
OK.
D'accord. D'accord.
Ouais. Ouais.
Romain,
Bonjour.
vous avez levé
à
la
tous.
main?
Oui, oui. Ouais. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Moi, en plus de la présentation faite par Abdelaziz, je voudrais apporter juste quelques éléments supplémentaires en 2 points. Le premier point concerne surtout la collecte des données qui permettrait vraiment d'avoir des documents de plaidoyer. Et dans ce sens, l'UNICEF est en train de travailler avec le ministère de l'Éducation nationale, notamment la direction de l'analyse prospective pour l'amélioration du questionnaire de collecte des données pour qu'il y ait suffisamment de données relatives à l'hygiène, à l'assainissement et à l'eau dans le milieu scolaire, et particulièrement les données relatives à la gestion de l'hygiène menstruelle. Donc, nous sommes en train de travailler avec le ministère pour que les questionnaires de collecte des données statistiques puissent contenir suffisamment de ces données-là pour que cela puisse constituer un document de plaidoyer pour le WASH in School.
C'est ça, c'est ça.
Et,
Daphne, could Daphne, can you translate that quickly before the second point? Then
okay, he wanted to point out two things. The first one is the data collection. And just to inform us that UNICEF is working with the ministry on the questionnaire for data collection and on water sanitation and hygiene, but with inclusion of menstrual health hygiene questions in that document.
Thank you. Okay. Ensuite,
okay.
Noah, oui.
Autre chose que je pourrais ajouter, ça concerne un peu la durabilité des actions qui sont déjà menées au niveau de l'école en ce qui concerne particulièrement la gestion de l'hygiène menstruelle. L'UNICEF est en train d'appuyer le gouvernement à travers la formation. Et là, c'est avec l'implication des organisations non gouvernementales qui implémentent nos activités. Donc, nous sommes en train de former des groupements féminins qui sont en charge de la production des kits de gestion de l'hygiène menstruelle pour le mettre à la disposition des adolescentes dans les écoles. Parce que s'il faut mettre à leur disposition des kits importés, cela n'assure pas la durabilité. Donc, nous sommes en train de nous engager sur la piste de durabilité en envisageant la production locale de ces kits. Voilà le deuxième élément que je voudrais ajouter par rapport à la durabilité de ce que nous sommes en train de faire. Merci.
Yeah, merci beaucoup.
Merci, Noye. I'm trying to translate. The second point that he wanted to point out is the sustainability of action related to menstrual health hygiene. They are currently supporting training of women organizations on MHH product to be part of the MHH kit that they are providing to beneficiaries. So this is a way of supporting the sustainability of that product or local product in actions.
Thank you, Daphne.
OK,
Yeah.
peut-être un dernier point. Comme l'a dit Abdel dans sa présentation, effectivement, nous sommes en train de réfléchir pour appuyer le ministère à réviser la stratégie eau hygiène assainissement en milieu scolaire pour que cela puisse prendre vraiment en compte le changement climatique en vue d'avoir des ouvrages ou des interventions résilientes au changement climatique aussi. C'est des actions que nous sommes en train de réfléchir pour les mener. Voilà ce que je pourrais ajouter. Merci.
Oh, okay, Daphne, quickly translate that, and then we open it up to, I think Abdel would like to speak, and then we have one more. I can check. So go ahead. Daphne.
The last point that he added is just the revision of the WASH strategy with the ministry. UNICEF is supporting that, and with integration of climate change considerations in schools actions.
Thank you. Perfect. OK. Monsieur Abdelaziz.
D'accord. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Je vous d'abord tiens à remercier infiniment pour l'occasion offerte à travers ce webinaire. J'ai saisi aussi l'occasion de pouvoir ajouter au-delà de ce que Noé a vraiment tout à l'heure donné comme information. Mais je vais mettre aussi l'accent sur un aspect très important que nous avons intégré, que nous avons pris en compte, celui de la prise en compte de coûts récurrents sur l'entretien et la maintenance. Donc, ces aspects n'ont pas été perdus de vue dans nos planifications. Récemment, nous avons, à travers, comme je l'ai déjà dit, l'année passée, nous avons élaboré le PIET 2 Et cette année, nous avons élaboré un pacte de partenariat et il y a eu une requête du gouvernement à l'intention du groupe de partenaires en éducation. Et dans cette requête, il y a une sous-composante qui est sur l'eau, l'assainissement et l'hygiène qui est prise en compte. Donc, automatiquement, dans nos déterminations de coûts, l'aspect sur les calculs de coûts récurrents tels que les maintenances, les achats des savons et autres ont été intégralement pris en compte. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Daphne, can you sum that up for us, please?
Said that he wanted to highlight as well the fact that they are doing continuing courses on maintenance and calculation of maintenance cost of washing schools. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that is done through the Pact for Education, the Partnership for Education and the Alliance?
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's one more hand raised, but unfortunately, the way my screen set up is, I can't see the hand unless I don't want to click on it by mistake. So if your hand is raised, can you speak?
Oui, bonjour madame.
Bonjour, bienvenue.
Oui, merci, c'est Ibrahima Doumbia, coordinateur WOSH à l'ONG AMPDR, Association malienne pour le développement rural, et président du REA, le réseau des ONG qui interviennent dans le domaine de l'hygiène en milieu scolaire. Donc, toujours par rapport à la durabilité des actions. Et donc, nous sommes des ONG de mise en œuvre avec l'UNICEF. Et le réseau des ONG a été mis en place pour vraiment renforcer les capacités des différentes interventions. Et avec le ministère de l'Éducation aussi, il y a un comité technique, un comité de suivi même qui a été mis en place. Ce comité permet de suivre l'évolution des indicateurs WOSH définis par l'UNICEF et ses différents partenaires. Donc, pour la durabilité aussi avec l'UNICEF, on a eu à mettre en place une approche qui est l'approche 3 étoiles, qui est une approche de renforcement de l'efficacité de tout ce qui a été fait dans le cadre du programme WOSH. Donc, aujourd'hui, l'approche 3 étoiles, on est en train de le mettre en œuvre. Tout ça, c'est pour renforcer la durabilité des actions dans les domaines de l'hygiène en milieu scolaire. Mais on aura le temps peut-être de développer et de partager d'autres présentations. Mais pour le moment, je m'arrête là. Et c'est pour vous signaler aussi ma participation à cette rencontre. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Daphne, could you really in a few words sum up what they're doing around the 3-star approach? Okay. You'll do better than I did.
Okay. Yeah. It's Mr. Ibrahima is a representative of implementation UNICEF partner, implementation partner, and he wanted to say that they have a monitoring committee that for the follow-up of indicators in Washington school, and also he wanted to highlight the sustainability, how they are doing it through the 3-stars approach. And also he wanted to say some few words to mark his presence and to highlight these 2 things.
Thank you very much. And if I got correctly, he's from Mali? Did I get correctly the country he's from?
Yes, Mali.
Yes,
Mali. Bienvenue. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so we will continue then with the presentation. Again, if you have additional questions or comments, please share them in the chat box. And I think the International Learning Exchange is exactly for this, to sort of exchange ideas and initiatives. So this is already a very good start. So we will move along. So the next presentation, please listen very carefully, is from Brooke Yamakoshi. She is a regional advisor with UNICEF in the WASH section based in Bangkok. And this is a pre-recorded presentation, but very timely in supporting the EE matrix. So with that, hopefully you can hear her, and let us begin. Let's see.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brooke, and I would like to share some lessons
from using the Washington Schools Enabling Environment Matrix. Before I start, I want to acknowledge that this work that I'm going to be sharing today has been done through the Washington Schools International Learning Exchange, which many countries participate in, and coordinated by different agencies working together, which you see at the bottom of the screen. And what I'd like to share with you today is a self-assessment tool that governments and other actors can use together at the national level to review progress in critical areas that will unlock this sort of universal access to Washington schools in line with the SDGs. And this is known as the Enabling Environment Matrix. I know maybe we need a catchier name. That's how you can tell we're a bunch of technical people. So the spirit and principle of these enabling environment matrices is country ownership. I mentioned stakeholders coming together at the national level. Usually that is done through National Washington Schools technical working groups that would come together in the lead up to the International Learning Exchange or on any of their own schedule at national level to assess their progress and then set goals for the coming year. And these are presented and shared during the ILE. So now let's take a look at how this is assessed. So as I mentioned, this is a self-assessment tool that different actors can come together at the national level to assess their progress year to year. So here I've given you an idea of the different questions that the technical working groups are provided with by in this case, the organizers of the Washington Schools International Learning Exchange, to be able to assess and then compare progress from year to year. So you can see here for policy and planning, for instance, we want to look not only at the adequacy of this dimension, but also the quality. So you see a question here, like, is there a national policy on Washington schools, which includes gender equality and social inclusion aspects? So this question was actually revised between 2021 and 2022 because it used to say, is there a national policy on Washington schools? As we saw that more and more countries were achieving that, almost all countries had a policy that had some specific aspects of Washington schools or a specific Washington schools policy. We wanted to actually refine this question a bit more to be able to look at these different quality dimensions. Under budget and financing, you can see here a question like, is there a costing of how much investment is needed to achieve national targets on Washington schools? And then is there a financing plan that looks at mobilizing funding from different sources? Under monitoring and evaluation, we want to know whether Washington schools data is reflected in the National Education Information Management System, and whether the definitions are sufficient to enable SDG reporting. So in other words, that graph I showed you on my second slide, is the data collection adequate to be able to produce national estimates that are internationally comparable? But then we also want to know, because we see more and more countries achieving this, is this data feeding into some sort of decision-making process? And is performance, particularly at the school level, but maybe also at the provincial level, subnational level, is performance being acknowledged and rewarded? So do we have an incentive system that's working well? Here you can see the rest of the indicators. So here you see institutional arrangements as well as capacity development. So this covers things like having clear roles and responsibilities and functioning coordination mechanisms, as well as implementation guidelines, which actually say who should do what at which level, and then what are the sort of accountability mechanisms to make sure that is done. Under capacity development, does the Ministry of Education have a plan or strategy for human capacity development for WashIn schools that is regularly reviewed? And then again, being able to look at some of the quality aspects of this. So now I would like to show you name blind, so no country names, an example of the sort of assessment that we saw from country technical working groups in 2022. So first we can see that generally the existence of policies and guidelines are bright spots with many countries up here saying that that is on track. But at the same time, we can see that some of the budget issues as well as the monitoring and evaluation issues seem to show less progress towards the indicators, but there were still some good practices that came out. So for example, a certain country is targeting resource allocation to schools that currently have no services. So this shows a good example of using data for decision making, while another country is looking at how to mobilize funding through the Global Partnership for Education for WashIn schools. Finally, I would like to focus and give a couple of concluding remarks about what some of the bottlenecks are, because of course the whole point of doing this exercise is to understand what are the weak aspects in the systems that deliver services that countries need to then focus on in order to unlock better progress. So first, I want to preface this by saying that there were many good practices and an encouraging number of countries that have WashIn schools reflected in their policies, that have implementation guidance, and are monitoring WashIn schools through their education management information systems. But I would also like to just focus on a couple of the weaknesses that seem to be kind of persistent year on year. So I think the first point is that we see good progress. I think in recent years, very consistently good progress on some of the normative aspects at the centralized levels. So this is things like having national policies or standards or guidelines at the national level. But I think when it comes down to looking at what are the bottlenecks to actually translating those into progress on the ground, there's a couple of things that stand out. So first of all, again, at the national level, many countries have clear WashIn schools targets. So how are we going to achieve universal coverage? What are our targets year to year? But fewer countries have done a costing on how much funding is needed to achieve the target. So that comes back to the resource question. Without a costing, many countries then did not have a clear financing plan that looks at different types of sources that would be actually sustainable. You know, and I think we heard some examples of what unsustainable resourcing would be, or one-off resourcing from Christine's presentation, and what we really want to focus on is sustainable sources of funding that are going to be there through government systems from year to year. Many countries also lacked a way of prioritizing the most schools that are kind of falling behind, or the poorest or most remote schools, for greater budget allocation. Finally, on monitoring, we saw that while progress, like I said, continues on monitoring WashIn schools through the EMIS, there is less progress on using this data for decision making and for providing recognition and incentives to high-performing schools or schools that or districts or provinces that are perhaps most improved or making the most rapid progress. With that, I think that maybe my last point is that this enabling environment matrix can be used to give good insights to technical working groups about what actions they should prioritize for the coming year. And also the process of having an international learning exchange allows countries to share experiences and share good practices and tips with one another on an annual or biannual basis. Thank you very much.
So the next presentation is going to be by my colleague, Lamine Ferreira from the Ministry of Health team in the Gambia, the beautiful Gambia. I mean, also Chad is beautiful too. All of Africa is beautiful. But he's going to tell us, I'm just thinking of the beaches in Gambia. I see these pictures of the beaches. But he's going to go through a little bit about their process of how they put the EE matrix together. And so he'll give a little bit of a background about the WinS Washington Schools situation in the Gambia. And then he will talk to us about how they did the first EE matrix. And maybe they can give some kind of inspiration or impulses as you prepare for other countries are preparing to put their EE matrix together. So we'll give a little bit of an African point of view. So with that, then I'm going to share your presentation. So Lamine, do you want to join us? Maybe you can unmute and ready for presenting. And I will have it in English. Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
So you can begin to give us the context, and I would just do the slides, but you can continue your presentation in English.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I am presenting on behalf of the Gambian team, as you say, Minister of Health in collaboration with MOPSI, that is Minister of Basic and Secondary Education and Department of Water Resources. In November 2023, did an assessment in schools and also in healthcare facilities. And these results have shown that about 5% of the schools still didn't have water sources and 2% with unprotected water sources. And 9% of the schools are with pit latrine, which didn't even have slab. And then 42% of the schools are without hand washing stations. 44% of hand washing stations in the schools, neither with soap, no water. Even though the various policies has mainstream WinS, that is MOPSI policy, Minister of Education policy, Ministry of Health, and also Department of Water Resources. Still, the country didn't have a standalone policy and strategy on WinS, which is a serious challenge. But there are conversations in this area. We feel that it will take a long period. But during those conversations, UNICEF has committed this year for the country to have a WAS guideline in schools. We also feel that one of the challenges in WinS is how do we coordinate. Still, there is a room for improvement in those areas, and there is high dependency of government on partners with regards to WinS. From our joint monitorings, also, we realize that maintenance of facilities in schools is a serious challenge, even though partners and ministries are doing well. But if you go for monitoring, you realize that maintaining those facilities are always a challenge, and the supplies of sanitary materials in those facilities are also a challenge. Next. The ministries at national level that are working on WinS are Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, which is currently leading Ministry of Health, that is the WAS unit at Ministry of Health, and also Department of Water Resources. We have some partners called UNICEF and also MRC Holland Foundation. They provide a lot of WAS facilities in school, CRS, and also FITO in our hands. These are the partners that support government institutions at national level to implement WinS. From the last year ILE, we made a commitment that Ministry of Education has to lead in WIN. And in that, Ministry of Education has identified a focal person both at regional and also at national level. And also, as we are speaking now, each of the schools has a focal person responsible for WINs in each of the schools. And we also initiated an MOU between Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and also DWR to smoothen the implementation of WIN and also to improve on our coordination. So other ministries are supporting Ministry of Education in this endeavor, where Ministry of Health has formed a national technical working group on WASH, and also in all the regions we have regional technical working groups. And in each of these technical working groups, we have a WINS focal person who looks at WINS in schools and also report to this technical working group. And Ministry of Health and DWR also help in the construction of sanitary facilities and also drilling of boreholes. And the Ministry of Health has public health officers in all the districts, with one of their responsibility is to do what we call school health programs. And in this, they target assemblies and some gatherings in school where they discuss about menstrual hygiene, they discuss about hygiene and also other sanitary measures. These are technical supports that are given from various institutions to Ministry of Education. So from our last year, next slide, please. From our development of the enabling environment matrix last year, I think this was a taking point. In fact, it brought us together. Before the enabling environment matrix development, there has not been a stronger collaboration at national level. But when this thing came, myself and Department of Water Resources went to Ministry of Education, particularly the Director of Planning and Information. We had a meeting with her. Then from there, we shared some individual responsibilities. And later we came together and then worked on the matrix. And then, as I said, Ministry of Health, Department of Water Resources, and Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education were the institutions that joined, and in which Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health lead. So the lessons we learned from the development of the enabling environment matrix last year is that no single department or entity can work on WINS. There has to be a collaboration between various ministries and entities to be able to improve the WINS. And also, even though there are collaborations, we have to allow Ministry of Education to take the lead. Hence, most of the things are in school. So we learned that in our last year enabling environment matrix development. So we believe this year we have to allow Ministry of Education to lead the whole thing and also to improve on our collaboration. So basically, this is what we have for you. Thank you very much for allowing us to give our experience in enabling environment matrix. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamin and the whole team. I don't know if anybody from the Gambia wants to add any reflections on the EE matrix, on the process of putting the EE matrix together, other things that you have found, or even in the process you're doing it this year. So I welcome the other Mr. Lamin from Water and also colleagues from Education. You're welcome to unmute. Musa? Yeah, Musa, please. You're welcome from Education. Yeah. Please unmute. Yeah, just unmute, I think.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, I can hear you now perfectly.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good morning to everybody. And thank you very much, Mr. Fadera, for that wonderful presentation. Well, from the EE matrix that you have just finalized, it has just brought the three institutions together to strategize and WinS activities intervention in schools, which has brought us to identify the roles and responsibility of each institution, what to do in schools and how to do it, and to ensure that we do joint monitoring of all activities that we are implementing in schools, that we do together to monitor them, and then we go together to see what are the progress and what are the challenges. And more so when, in fact, when we left the Cote d'Ivoire training, when we came, it has improved very well our WinS in school intervention in schools. This for the 2023 activities, we have done a lot of WinS support interventions. In fact, before we were not even providing hand washing stations in schools, but after the Cote d'Ivoire training, most of the schools, I think we can say 25% of the schools have now access to hand washing stations. So this is a very learning exercise for us. And then we have also seen that now we are trying to ensure that, we have separate sanitation facilities for both girls and boys in schools, and water systems are properly installed, that there are adequate water supply for all schools that we are intervening in terms of support from UNICEF, from other partners, which has shown us a way forward, how to ensure that we improve and progress on WAS interventions in schools. So ILE is a very good training compact, and it has helped partners to collaborate and coordinate activities in a way that we are all seeing some progress and some results in our interventions and collaborations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask, we're slightly over time, but I think these are all very important points, and I want to make sure everyone understands them. So if you can stay on, please do stay on. Daphne, are you still with us? Are you able to stay on to help us with a little bit with the translation on some of the key points raised by the other Mr. Lemon?
I missed some point in the beginning, but I think the overall that he wanted to point out the benefit they get from the last ILA and how the matrix help them improve intervention in terms of washing schools and also in terms of partners coordination and collaboration. So that that's all these 2 points, that
2 points, and then
the
third point he did mention that is they were actually, and it's not only the coordination, but they've actually been able to see actual results. And he's saying that increasing amounts of hand washing, I think up to 25% of schools now have hand washing facilities.
Exactly.
So this is so if you can just add that in the translation, that's perfect. And then Musa will also say some words when he can unmute. But you first do the translation and then we go to Musa. So go ahead with the translation, please. Thank you.
Yes. You want me to translate in French?
Yeah, in French. Yeah, please.
Oh, yeah. Est-ce que vous pouvez... Merci beaucoup, monsieur, pour ce point d'ajout. Donc, est-ce que vous pouvez mettre dans la présentation ces données-là, par exemple, comment cela a amélioré vos interventions et surtout le pourcentage d'augmentation pour les installations de lavage des mains dans les écoles également. Ce sont des points importants qu'on pourrait avoir dans les présentations, dans les slides, je veux dire.
Merci. And Musa, please, you are welcome.
Yes, hello, Belinda.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you 100% clear.
Good. Just to add on the bit on how MOFI is leading. We've realized that apart from initiating the MOU and then having focal points at national level and regional, we also realized that the image indicators as far as what is concerned are very limited. And then as a result, UNICEF has also committed funds to help us in that area. So already we've planned to have a meeting with the EMIS team so that some of these indicators can be added. And then that's going to help us a lot because the EMIS has a lot to play as far as how they call MOPSI leadership is concerned. So this is the bit I want to add. Thank you.
Yeah, that's actually a very important point, and it underlines from Chad. So again, the importance of the monitoring, first the MOU, the monitoring, integrating these indicators in EMIS. Maybe you can underline that point, souligner un peu, Daphne, this point.
Oui, c'est le point que voulais souligner, c'est surtout par rapport aux indicateurs de EMIS, qui et surtout avoir le volet le volet menstrual health hygiene, mais surtout ils ont précisé le support de l'UNICEF pour renforcer ces indicateurs et aussi leur intégration et dans les EMIS du ministère. Merci.
Yeah, parfait. So thank you very much, Team Gambia, and we are looking forward to seeing you at the ILE and to share more in exchange. So with that, then, we will go straight to Natalie, and we'll come back then maybe to close. For those who want to stay, we'll have some more questions and answers. But Natalie, the floor is yours. I can stop the share if you prefer. And she's going to also, yeah, so you are welcome. I'm going to stop the share for now. Okay, great.
So it's okay, either way.
Yeah, hi everyone. First of all, thanks Belinda and the rest of the WinS Network team for making this possible. Just wanting also to say hi from my side. I'm so happy to see so many familiar faces from last year. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again soon, but also meeting, of course, new faces, new persons. I think it's going to be, as last year, it's going to be a lot of fun. Or I'm pretty sure of it. I just wanted to give a last few reminders, and maybe Daphne, I can always pause a bit for you to do the translation to French. The first reminder is that there has been an email sent to most, so this was coordinated by the different country coordinators, the delegations for the countries, and everyone there should have gotten an email with administrative note, etc., where we find much more information, and also the country preparation guidelines, which talk about filling out the EE matrix, which we've discussed here now in quite some detail, but also that there's a possibility for countries to hand in or to send in a short film. This is all further explained in the guidelines, and please just make sure that you send this film to us latest by the end of April, because we will also need some time to consolidate the data and put it into order during the conference. Daphne, maybe you want to do the translation now?
Thank you, Natalie. First, she's happy to see some new faces. Oh, pardon. Elle est contente de voir les nouveaux visages et est très excitée par rapport à la prochaine édition de ALI. Donc, le premier rappel qu'elle veut passer, c'est concernant l'email qu'on a envoyé. C'était l'email pour l'enregistrement où on avait aussi les notes administratives et les guides de préparation pour que chaque délégation devrait préparer pour leur participation dans le ALI. Donc, on apprécierait que vous travaillez sur ça et que vous nous envoyez vos présentations et d'ici la fin du mois d'avril. Donc, c'est ça.
Thank you, Daphne. And then I'm going to do this quickly. So it's just three points remaining, which are also explained in the administrative note that's been sent. But I just want to emphasize on this. So the first one is, please, everyone, to check out the visa process and to not wait until the last minute to do it, because I had now I think the Tanzania visa works normally quite fast, so it doesn't take longer than a few days. But as it's also explained in the administrative note, there are some countries that are on this sort of referral list. and there the process needs to, or it will take a bit longer. So this is just, not that anybody's then disappointed in the end because the visa didn't come in time. So please make sure you get started on that as soon as possible. The documents for that have been sent, invitation letter, there's also been one sent an office note for GIZ, just registering it in Tanzania. This was also needed, and then you can also upload administrative note, etc. Yeah, I think exactly. And the second one is a reminder about vaccinations. So I know that last year we still had a lot of issues with COVID vaccinations and so on. This year around, they don't require any PCR testing or COVID vaccinations anymore to enter Tanzania. There is, however, the requirement that people coming from yellow fever endemic countries, they need the vaccination at the entry. So you need to definitely take your vaccination certificate with you when you travel there, because worst case scenarios, so don't let you enter the country if you don't have it with you, or you have to do another vaccination on the spot. Maybe that is also something that they sometimes do. But yeah, please just make sure that you take that with you. Or if you are in transit for plus 12 hours in an endemic country, then you will need this as well. And last but not least, also a reminder for the accommodation. So the conference venue, the accommodation is covered when you arrive on the 6th of May. So that is the Monday in the evening until the 10th of May. So if you arrive earlier or later, then the accommodation will then have to be covered by the participants themselves. Just checking so as I mentioned, each country, there's a country coordinator, and to please just also always get in touch with your coordinator to handle and to coordinate the whole process of your country team. But if there's questions, of that, then also please feel free to just write me an email, and we will help. Sorry, Daphne, I realized I said so much. I hope you can still translate that.
I took some notes.
Good.
Donc, le deuxième point qu'elle voulait nous rappeler, c'est concernant le processus de visa. Dans la note administrative, ça a été quand même détaillé, mais elle veut quand même nous le rappeler et ne pas attendre la dernière minute et pour faire vos processus de visa pour la Tanzanie. Généralement, c'est assez rapide, mais on ne sait jamais, donc c'est mieux de lancer le processus le plus vite que possible pour que vous ayez vos visas, les billets, etc., et que vous soyez prêts pour être présent à l'événement du 6 au 10. Le deuxième point, c'est concernant la vaccination. Donc, on n'a pas besoin de vaccination contre la COVID pour entrer en Tanzanie. On n'a plus besoin de ça, mais pour la fièvre jaune, et c'est important. Je crois, et donc c'est important, donc il faudra vraiment que vous ayez votre carnet de vaccination avec vous et pour prouver que vous avez pris le vaccin, et sinon vous risquez de ne pas avoir le droit d'entrer dans le pays, où il vous faudra prendre se faire vacciner sur place, etc. Donc n'oubliez pas d'apporter votre carnet de vaccination contre la fièvre jaune. Le troisième point, c'est concernant le logement, l'accommodation. Donc, c'est couvert, comme on a dit, c'est couvert pour tous les participants du 6 au 10. Donc, si vous arrivez avant, vous allez payer le montant avant. Ou si vous voulez rester après le 10 aussi, ce sera à votre charge, mais c'est couvert du 6 au 10 pour tous les participants. Donc, il y a les coordonnateurs de pays. Donc, chaque délégation a un coordonnateur. Donc, vous pouvez vous coordonner avec lui pour quand même préparer votre paquet de participation avec le coordonnateur. Mais aussi, si vous avez des questions plus spécifiques, vous n'hésitez pas à contacter Nathalie pour des questions, si vous avez besoin de plus de clarification.
Merci. Yeah.
Thank you, Daphne. So I put my email address in the chat just for reference, but as mentioned, please always also go through your country coordinator to clarify on questions. But if not, always also free to reach out to me if there's anything urgent. Okay, questions, or handing back to you, Belinda.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe we can take a minute or two for questions. I do want to share that we will have a session coming up on the 18th, which will be mostly on questions and answers and preparation for the ILE as well as presentations. But so I think we can definitely take one or two questions now. So I see two hands are up. Idris, bienvenue, welcome. Vous avez une question? Do you have a question? Monsieur Idris? OK.
Oui.
OK.
Une question?
Idriss, oui, ça va? Oui, ça va?
Oui, Marcel Richard de Centrafrique. Juste sur la liste des pays qu'on a mis pour le visa, il n'y a pas le nom de la République centrafricaine. Et ça dit qu'on ne devait pas soumettre la demande de visa.
Did you understand his question around Central African Republic? He's just wondering the list that is provided. If I understand it, it's not indicating that. So he's just wondering, perhaps maybe, is there any, did I understand it correctly, Daphne?
Yes, exactly. In the list they were provided in the admin note, there is South Africa, Republic South Africa is not listed in the document. So he wanted to know is there is no visa requirement, or is it just to know what is the visa requirement for them?
Okay.
Good point. So the countries that are listed specifically are the 11 countries that require this sort of special referral visa, where it takes a longer process to get that done. For the other countries, please check it on the there's a link provided for the visa website. So I don't know from the top of my head all the countries and what the requirements are, but you can see whether you need a visa, what kind of visa is needed on the website by the Tanzanian immigration.
OK, c'est un bon point. Merci pour cette question. En fait, elle n'a pas la liste dans sa tête, mais les 11 pays qui ont été listés dans la note administrative, ce sont ces 11 pays-là qui ont besoin de referral visa, des visas de référence. Donc, c'est pour ça donc, ce sont ces pays-là qui doivent vraiment surtout commencer avant. Mais si votre pays n'est pas dans la liste, pour être sûr, c'est mieux de regarder dans le lien qui est dans le site de service visa et d'aller voir, pour confirmer si vous avez besoin de visa ou pas et quels sont les processus.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, merci. So maybe we take one more question, and the others who have questions can put it in the chat box. So I see that Mr. Lamin, you have unmuted, so please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Just a follow-up question, as my previous colleague have just mentioned. In the Gambia, the visa process, do we have to write, or do we have to request for visa, or is it the organizers to submit names to the various countries to participate in that they will have to clear out of their visa arrangements?
No, so this one has to be done by every participant. So this is not something that we as the organizers can do. So just again, please check out the link in the administrative note or the Tanzania immigration visa site. there it is explained, there the process is explained. However, we've sent all the documents that are required. So that is invitation letter, the administrative note for the hotel, and then there's also one which shows that GIZ as the host is registered in Tanzania. So these are the kind of documents that has been sent to you that you will need for the visa to do it yourself.
All right, noted. Thank you.
Daphne, just a quick translation of that, if you don't mind, your beautiful translation, that it is each participant's responsibility to go on the link. Yeah, merci.
Oui, au fait, pour les visas, c'est chaque pays a la responsabilité de faire de lancer le processus eux-mêmes. Mais toutefois, si vous avez besoin de support, de l'aide, donc chaque pays peut nous contacter pour voir si on peut supporter. Mais normalement, c'est chaque pays fait son processus de visa et pour aller dans l'événement.
Merci. Je voudrais souligner, c'est chaque pays et chaque personne. So, chaque personne, c'est responsable. Thank you very, very, very much, everybody, and I want to go again to thank, je voudrais remercier the Chad team as well as the Gambie. Thank you so much for participating in this webinar. Do, as it said on the note before, on the 18th, we will have another webinar following up on the advocacy aspects. We'll be discussing a bit more country examples as we prepare and get our minds and our teams prepared for the discussion and exchanges coming. I want to thank you, everybody, from participating from the four corners of Africa, Asia, and in Europe. Thank you very much. And if you have more questions, please feel free to contact us via the WinS Network. And Natalie has also put her contacts. Thank you too, Natalie. Merci beaucoup, Daphne and team, for the beautiful translation. And maybe over to you to close it with the translation on the few points about thanking everybody. The 18th, there will be another webinar to go over questions and answers, and then the plaidoyer or the advocacy. And yeah, that's it.
Vraiment, merci à tous. Merci pour votre participation. Merci à l'équipe du Tchad, l'équipe de Gambia pour les présentations. Et aussi, il y aura un autre webinaire, c'est le 18, et où on pourra aller dans les questions-réponses, répondre à beaucoup plus de questions et aussi sur l'aspect de plaidoyer. Donc, à la prochaine, le 18 prochain pour l'autre webinaire. Merci.
Merci et bonne journée à tous. And have a great day to everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.